Hi there. I created this video for people who are experiencing the symptoms of ADHD because very often we will try to solve those symptoms without getting to the root cause. And I'd like to go through this video with you to show that you not trusting yourself could be the root cause, and you not putting yourself first could worsen your ADHD symptoms. But of course, until you trust yourself, you're not going to put yourself first. So how did this happen? So if you are neurologically different, that includes highly sensitive, ADHD, autistic, and others, if you believe on a deep level from the moment you came into the world, I am wrong, then that belief carries through life. And then what we do is, instead of dealing with that core belief that I am wrong, we try to solve that issue out in the world. So before you will trust yourself, you must first get permission and approval from the world that you are worthy of trust. This can show up by trying to meet many demands and many different forms of expectation. And of course, we can't meet them all at once. So because of our exquisite sensitivity, we picked up unspoken messages when we were younger. And these weren't necessarily true, but because of our hard wiring, we misunderstood. Because of our limbic system, our nervous system, we took these messages to mean that we needed to do better and improve. So from our mother, we interpreted what she said and thought as you should do better. From our father, perhaps he didn't know how to handle our emotions. It's not our fault, but we took the message, we are wrong, so we must improve in that area. There's sometimes people do explicitly tell us this, like at school, other children can say something to us like, oh, she's so weird, or say something directly to us. And then, of course, because of our hard wiring, we don't just let it bounce off us like neurotypical people. We take it very much to heart, and it's more evidence reinforcing that we are wrong. Then over time, one way or another, we grow up not trusting our sense of self. We basically outsourced our sense of self to other people. And then we try and solve it out there. So the main way we do it is to look to other people to give us permission to be us. We spend a lot of time and energy trying to prove that we are good enough in the many areas that make up our life. We try very hard in the hope that the feedback we receive from others will allow us to trust ourselves, to give us permission, in fact. But it's never enough. It's a bottomless pit. So we're constantly divided into many pieces. We can't ever keep everybody happy all the time, but we dread getting a piece of evidence that tells us, that backs up that belief that we're wrong. So we end up never knowing who we are and what we want. We're not allowed to want anything. Basically, the energy flow is going the wrong way. This is key. It's always going out to others and then receive feedback, which unfortunately usually backs up our core belief, I can't trust myself, I'm wrong. Well, so what? Well, when we don't trust ourselves, when we don't know what makes us happy, when we don't know what we want, when we don't know how to commit to what we want because we're not sure about it and we don't trust ourselves, the problem is that we're always committing to many things, succeeding at none, because we're not deeply rooted in ourselves. We're actually afraid of finishing anything because it will prove that we can't trust ourselves, we'll fail basically. We're unable to go through the natural growth cycle because we're afraid we won't be supported. We're afraid we're going to get negative feedback that will reinforce this belief that we're wrong. So we avoid taking purposeful action. We're afraid to be ourselves because we're afraid people will leave us. This means we're always trying and never succeeding. We're always overthinking. Never give ourselves permission to rest because we're just not enough as we are. We have to achieve things and receive that permission, the validation. We never feel safe enough to be ourselves, and we never feel safe enough to relax. So what is it that we do together? Well, let's go back to this last slide. I see many programs who are working on the symptom of, let's give you techniques to learn at work. Let's give you coping mechanisms to use in the family home. Let's give you a budget so that you manage your money better. Let's find ways of you relating to your partner, etc., etc. But what I've found is once we work with this core belief of, I am wrong, I don't trust myself, what happens is suddenly you come home to yourself. When you trust yourself, your life just works. A lot of things happen as a result of this because what we're actually doing is we are reversing the flow. Instead of putting the flow out into the world in order to get these things back. So we want people to be patient with us. We want people to give us recognition, approval, acceptance, positive regard, love, and permission. That's what we have been doing things in order to get. This is really simple, guys. What we do is we give these things to ourselves. How do we do this? Well, this is all part of the work that we do together. We do this by taking actions that prove that it is safe to give ourselves approval just as we are now. It is safe to take actions that speak to ourselves of love and permission. And we decide these actions together. The result of this is quite dramatic. It allows us to be ourselves so that you actually are giving yourself permission to know what you want. You don't have to please anybody because you're not afraid of being exiled or excluded. You know you can achieve what you choose because you're not afraid of failure anymore. Your whole sense of self isn't resting on it. You know how to keep going even when it's tough because your identity isn't tied to success. You can stand by your choices and take full responsibility for your life because you know your life doesn't rest on one choice that you make. And you also know you have the resources to course correct when things go wrong. You're not afraid of people's approval or disapproval, and you don't change yourself in order to change how they feel about you. So you don't need to control people to get what you need. You can just ask and say, hey, this is what I need. It doesn't make you weak. You know that when you are yourself, you are so much better for others. And so you find yourself being yourself more and more. So instead of meeting the world from our head, sending energy out from overthinking, from controlling and manipulating ourselves and other people, we're deeply rooted in our hearts. And it's from this strong foundation of I know, like, and trust myself, we're then able to meet challenges, to deal with family, to take on goals and commitments, and to meet expectations without fear, and to even be vulnerable and ourselves with friends, knowing that we are being our full self and we are not dependent on getting feedback from them. All the arrows are going out. So all of the things that you might be asking for actually come about just from this very, very strong reversal of flow. Sounds simple, doesn't it? And it is a really, really simple approach, strongly tied to taking actions and being present with what comes up and growing. It's simple, but it's not easy because it does require us to face into what we've been avoiding about ourselves for a long time. But the one thing I can tell you is what you fear is there is not there. It's just dragons keeping you from the treasure.